Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Knife Chats with Tobias. Okay, before we get into the review of this knife, I need to point out that I think I was a little too forgiving with Case on this, and part of that is because I have a long experience with Case knives, and I do feel that some of the criticisms of the knife are unwarranted and a little bit over the top. However, I was probably a little too forgiving on this knife here in the review that you're going to be seeing. And you can see the gap here. Now, right now, I mean, I'm trying to get the light to shine through there, but for some reason I can't get it to do that. Let me open it up and see if it happens. Yeah, there we go. If I hold it just right, you can see there, I mean, you can see how the light obviously is shining through, and there is a definite gap there, and that is one of those gaps that I do not care too much about. And also, if you notice here, when you close the blade, while it isn't hitting the side, it is also not straight down the middle, and you can actually push it to the side and get it to lay down the middle. But you definitely have a wobble there. And a lot of people have a problem with that. I see the same thing with like a buck knife, which is a lockback. Also the problem you have here is when this knife is open, you also have a little bit of a blade wobble. And I know a lot of people are not crazy about blade wobble. So these are definitely the things that people complain about with Case. And is it a legitimate complaint? It is absolutely a legitimate complaint, especially when this is like a Tony Bose knife. I would expect that they would do a little bit more to make sure of the quality of a knife that has somebody's name attached to it. So all of those are legitimate beefs with Case. And I probably played it down a little bit in the recording that's going to follow this. But I just wanted to point it out that these are the legitimate complaints that people have about the quality control at Case, and these are things that need to be addressed by Case if they want to continue to have customers. They cannot rely forever on their Tang stamp. So they need to actually come out and address these issues, and they need to let people know that they are addressing these issues, and they need to be more forthcoming when it comes to repairing these kind of issues. For instance, when a person has to send the knife to Case to have a repair done like this, if the repair is their fault, if it left the company, if it left the factory and it was not up to snuff, if it was not up to a decent level of quality, the customer sending the knife to them should not have to pay postage to ship the knife to them. It's just that flat out the way it is. I mean, I get it that you might be losing a little money on the postage and stuff, but Case should pay the dime for the postage. You should be able to submit photos of what the problem is, and then they should be able to tell you ahead of time, no, that is not covered by our warranty, we are not going to repair it, so on and so forth. Especially at this day and age of email and everything else, there are ways for a Case to deal with these kind of issues. But if you can show something like this with the knife and show that, this has a bit of a wobble there, and you can actually physically see the gap there, then either Case has to say, nope, that is fine with us, that's within our quality control, or they should be able to say, yeah, send that back to us and we'll get that fixed for you. And it should not you should not have to pay a dime to have something like that fixed. I'll tell you that right now. And if the knife, it's still though, as I've mentioned in the past, the best way to deal with it is to take it to the retailer where you bought it. This knife is from 2022. It is not in production anymore. So there is no way taking it back to the retailer is going to fix the issue. This is something that Case would need to fix. It is something I would need to send to Case. And it is something that they should repair, and I should not have to pay a dime for them to repair it, including the postage price. They should be able to send me prepaid postage and send it out, and I should be able to send it to them. Just my thoughts. And with that said, let's move on to the video. What we have here is the other knife I picked up from the Dog Patch Trading Post in London, Kentucky. In this case, it is a Tony Bose Swayback. And, well, let's read the box here. It says, Bose Sparks XX Black Pearl Kirinite Smooth Swayback. And we got the pattern number there, TB10117, is that right? 101117, and then stainless steel. So stainless steel blade or true sharp stainless steel. We see here that the born date was January 28th, 2022. We'll get to that in just a second when we look at the tank stamp here. The interesting thing is, says there 101117, and if we look at the card here for handle material, we see that 10 is for G10 or Kirinite. Now I used to say that the 10 or 10 was for G10 or micarta, so I'm guessing they're adding other things to whatever the 10 is. I would have assumed that that Kirinite would have fallen underneath 4 is just smooth synthetic. I would have probably put it under smooth synthetic because that's what it is. I mean, I looked up, I was looking all over the place to find out exactly what Kirinite is, and it's basically a trademark name for an acrylic that is supposedly will not get slippery when wet. That's but it is a type of acrylic. So once again, it's a swirly plastic, or what I would have considered a smooth synthetic. Does have the spark shield on there, and as you notice, it did say it's a Tony Bose Swayback. This is the second Tony Bose Swayback I got. This is the other one I got. This was the one in the saw cut bone, and because this is saw cut bone, if we can see there, it's got a much shorter pattern number because it's bone, so it just says TB61117, and then stainless steel. This one, a much longer tank stamp that we just went over. You can see it right there. In any case, the interesting thing on the pattern or the tank stamp up front, if you notice, that is 9 dots instead of 8 dots, which is what you would expect for a knife from 2022. However, this is early in 2022, January 28th. So January is only, what, the year is only 28 days in. So this knife was most likely still using blades from before, because it is a 9 dot. Similar to this one, which I don't have the box with me right now, but it was made in 2021. So right around at the end of 2021. So this is one of those things that I talked about before about the tank stamps. It's not always going to be 100% accurate. So when this box is missing, people will assume that this knife was made in 2021. The blade was made in 2021. The knife was, according to the box, was made in 2022. So just because you have a 9 dot blade in a knife made in 2022, do not start assuming that the knife is counterfeit. That is not necessarily the case. what would give you a sign that the knife might be counterfeit is if this had 9 dots and this knife was actually made instead of like 2022. The box was saying that it was from 2018 or something like that, or the box was saying it's from 2024. Then you might get a little more suspicious, but don't get too hung up on all the dots there. It's more or less a guideline. What I can also tell you about this knife is this is really sweet. I have come to appreciate the Kirinite. I've seen other knives by Case in Kirinite and thought twice about picking it up because, once again, it's swirly plastic. How much do I want to spend for swirly plastic? You know, and I think it's a legitimate comment that people have. Same thing with like the Frost Coralon knives. It is basically a swirly plastic. It's acrylic that someone has mixed up. And that is what's going on with this. But you do have some good fire in this black Kirinite. It's they refer to it as pearl, right? Is that what they said? Black pearl Kirinite, and you see some really nice lines in there and some good color going on in it. So I do like the way it looks. One of the flaws on this knife, which is a little problematic, is if you're talking about a gap on a knife, this is probably the biggest gap I've ever seen on a Case knife. And yeah, if you look, you can actually see through there. See that? Let's see if we can see something else. See how now you can see the light, now you can't. That is pretty much a pretty big gap there. I guess I could send it back to Case and have them fix it. And also, if you notice, the blade is not perfectly centered. It was the last of these knives I saw at the trading post, and I grabbed it simply because, well, it was a Tony Bose. And this is 2024 now, and it's a 2-year-old knife. So I really wanted the knife, and I went ahead and grabbed it. Now, this one, also a Tony Bose, also a Swayback. Blade action is fine on this one. Blade action on this one is also super fine. And I really like the way the knife looks. It works fine, but there is definitely that flaw of the gap there. This one does not have any kind of gap going on there. This one, yeah, it is brass. Is it brass? No, I think it is. It looks like the back spring, the liner here is not brass. It doesn't appear to be brass. You can see this is brass. So I'm not sure why this is using either probably nickel silver liners and nickel silver bolsters, which are all nice. Nickel silver pins too. It's smooth. That's why the pin is a flat pin and not the large round pin. I talked about that in another video. What the problem with this one is, I don't like the backside saw cut bone. It's just kind of blah. The front side is gorgeous, and it's got some really good lines in it. It feels good when you're rubbing your hand against it. This side is about as smooth as glass. You can see some lines that are supposed to be there, but you can't feel them when you're rubbing your hand across it. So both knives have little minor flaws with them. But I still want them in the collection simply because they are Tony Bose Swaybacks, and I really do like them. This one also, notice it has a bottom bolster. This one is a bare head. So there are some differences to them. And there's also some flaws on both knives, I would say. This one has a more significant flaw in it, in that you have a noticeable gap there. And the blade alignment is not quite as straight as it should be. I could probably send it back and get it fixed, and maybe I will if it annoys me. Look at that one, dead center down the middle. But anyway, I thought I'd show you these and share them with people. I'm sure the Case haters are going to really like to say, yep, that's why I never buy a case knife. Look at that gap there. And it's like, okay, well, that's fine for you. It's not the end of the world for me. I would have liked to have seen it a little bit better, and I could always send it back and probably get it fixed. But for right now, it's in my collection, and I've learned a thing or two about Kirinite, and that is that it is kind of grippy. Your hand doesn't slip on it, and it feels good, and it looks good. So it's a little bit more than your basic acrylic. So I'm happy with the Kirinite too, and might start looking at a couple of other knives in the Kirinite, because there's quite a few of them out there that are looking pretty good to me. In any case, stick around for some slides, and I'll talk to you again soon. Let me take just a second to thank you once again for dropping by and spending a few minutes here at Knife Chats with the Pious. I really do appreciate it, and I do appreciate any comments that you leave. So please remember to give me that thumbs up, and also don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you'll know when the next episode is up and running. Thanks again for dropping by. Really do appreciate your time here.